Welcome to Fight Night Hearthstone Edition, featuring the top 8 players around the world. With 10,000 in prize money and regional pride on the line, who will go home the Hearthstone champion? This is Fight Night! Welcome back everybody to Fight Night here at ESGN TV. After 3 heavy-hitting rounds of Hearthstone, other team no name yet is currently up 2-1 over Team DogeHouse. Will they be able to close it out, or will Team DogeHouse manage to tie it up and send it to the ace match? Before we begin, let's take a look at some of the highlights to see how we got here. Yep, there it is, the well played. Nyhx will win 3-0 over Trump.
Monk cannot lose right now.
Cool, so Monk's gonna win 3-0 over Ekop in revenge as Krip is able to take and finish the series 3-2.
What a game.
It's time to meet our players. From Team DogeHouse, the BlizzCon 2013 champion, Artosis. The guy who let all the doggies out, Ekop. His top deck skills are top-notch, Nyhx. And the young prodigy, Nyhx. From other team no name yet, the strategist, Monk. The stone cold killer, StrifeCrow. The mayor of Valuetown, Trump. And the king of dreams, Kripparrian. All right, round 4 of Hearthstone. We don't have the wheel anymore. We don't need any team captains. Come on, StrifeCrow. Nyhx, you're the last 2 players, and so it all comes down to you guys. Nyhx, you have to come clutch, or StrifeCrow, you can close it out. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, well, shake hands and good luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
Welcome to the caster desk. I'm joined by Monk, who won the second set for his other team, no name yet. Monk, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. We're up 2-1, so it's a great feeling. StrifeCrow is one of our stronger players, so I think he's very likely to take it to 3-1 and take the series.
You feel really confident in your teammate to close it out, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, StrifeCrow is one of the aces for their team. We got a chance to talk with him for a little bit, and let's get to know StrifeCrow a little bit better.
My name is Kong Shu. My ID is StrifeCrow, and I'm from Houston, Texas. I feel pretty confident as far as my own matches go. I know that the recent patch has just hit. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, and it's not like I love it, but I feel like one of my strengths is being able to adapt to new environments. So I actually think that the new patch hitting is actually good for me because I feel like I'm probably able to switch up my decks, for the new patch faster than the other people.
You know, Kong's a really cool guy. He's from China, he's from Texas, he's got a little mixed blood of everywhere, but in the end, what it boils down to, he's an excellent Hearthstone player.
Yes, of course. In fact, all our team are excellent Hearthstone players, so you really can't say that about just StrifeCrow, right?
How valuable was he in terms of the team deck building process?
Well, StrifeCrow, he actually plays Constructed more than any of us. Krip and Trump, they play Arena mostly, and even though I focus on Constructed, I'm very busy with other things such as producing content. So I would say he's the most experienced Constructed player out of all of us, and he thinks, I would say, more outside the box than I personally would. Like, I would do things like pretty much by the book and add 1 or 2 interesting twists.
But he's very innovative.
Yeah, he's very innovative. He adds extremely new ideas that people haven't tested. He makes them good, basically.
Well, he does have a formidable opponent in Nyhx, and we got a chance to sit down with him as well. Check out this little video.
I like aggressive style over control. It just fits me better. My favorite class is Rogue. I really enjoy the combos and especially like Backstep and Edwin. I think they're really cool. StrifeCrow, he was like 3-bit in StarCraft, I think. I think he's really, really good. And he's playing like all day non-stop. And that helps if you play a game like Hearthstone. I think StrifeCrow's by far their best player.
All right, they've been talking strategy for the past few days. They're raring to go, Monk. Let's just get straight into game number 1, Druid versus Druid. What do you think?
I'm excited. Druid versus Druid is a matchup that I actually played versus ECOP.
All right, game number 1, Druid versus Druid, StrifeCrow versus Nyhx. And immediately right off the bat, we see a wild growth for Nyhx. We don't see that often in Druid decks, but they can be very potent if you pair it with some early coin shenanigans.
Of course, wild growth, I think, is what sets Nyx's deck from StrifeCrow's deck. StrifeCrow, I know because he's on my team, he's not running wild growth. and Nyhx is. So the difference there is that Wild Growth is a very slow card, and Druid is a typically very slow class. So when you have a slow class or a slow deck versus an even slower deck, usually the even slower deck wins.
Yeah.
So even though I beat ECOP in these exact decks, I think Nyhx has an advantage in this matchup.
So right away we see that Nyhx has several options at his disposal, as Strife does end up passing turn 1, but he's not going to do anything instead. I guess he might want to try to coin and get the Harvest Golem out or whatnot. He keeps his options open with so much mana on the board.
Of course, I think one of his options is actually coining out something really huge, like an Ancient of, or coining plus innovating something huge, like an Ancient of War.
Yeah, or, well, I mean, he's going to Wild Growth instead, but he also had the option of getting out a Gadgetzin Auctioneer. Granted, he spends so many spells getting it out, but still, the option's fun.
Yeah, we can see in StrifeCrow's deck that he already has Ysera in there, and I consider Ysera to be probably the most anti-Druid creature in the entire game. Wow, a turn 3 Sylvanas, which is huge.
Yeah, you know, you don't really see it that often, and what makes it kind of crazy is that Nyhx has the Keeper of the Grove in his disposal, so if he wants to silence it, it looks like he's just going to go for a swipe instead and potentially finish it off with maybe an Innervate Hero Power.
You know, Sylvanas is a very, probably one of the best creatures in the game, and you always, even though Sylvanas is worth 5 mana, or she costs 5 mana, she's often worth more than her mana cost. So trading Sylvanas for a swipe and an Innervate might actually be more even than what many people would think.
So you think it's in the end a good trade for StrifeCrow?
No, I think it is in the end a good trade for StrifeCrow, but it's probably more even than most people think.
Okay, some people are like, oh yeah, he took so much.
2 for 1, oh my god.
Well, in this scenario, now StrifeCrow still has the initiative to drop something against Nyhx. Let's take a look at his hand in just a second and find out what he's exactly planning. Doesn't really have that many options. Dropping a Naked Argus is always one of the most painful experiences as a player because you feel like, oh man, it's just a 3/3 for 4 mana, but sometimes it's not. I mean, if you have nothing else, it's not the worst option you could do.
And right now we can see one of the differences in how StrifeCrow would play versus how I would play.
You would have saved it?
I probably would have saved that just hero powered, but he values more getting the creatures out, I feel, and getting more of a board presence. As we saw in StrifeCrow's hand, he had a Ragnaros, a Ysera, and a Naturalize, which puts him up very well for the late game, even though, again, Nyx's deck is probably geared more towards the late game. So as long as he survives then, and Nyx doesn't draw those amazing cards as well, I think StrifeCrow will be quite ahead.
Now, what's really kind of difficult for StrifeCrow is he doesn't really have a direct answer for the bear form unless he wants to use second swipe or naturalize, which is still not ideal. You know your opponent has bigger targets on the board. With this kind of slow deck design, you know he also probably has a Ragnaros. That's the kind of stuff you want to save it for.
I'd just like to point out, I think this is his first swipe, and Nyx was the other guy who used the swipe.
You're right. I'm sorry, I got mixed up from the. It's a little bit tough, and I've done it with mirrors, man. With getting it mixed up. I did this again also with some consecrations. And equalities back in Krip versus Artosis. I apologize.
I think one of the biggest points about swipe is that I think swipe is one of the best cards, one of the best AoEs in the game. But when you're facing a Druid, it might not be as valuable as when you're facing other classes. Druid tends to have more of big creatures on the field, and they very rarely have a bunch of little creatures that can be hit by the 1 damage AoE.
Yeah.
So you probably want to value swipe less when you're facing Druid.
And so tossing it out wouldn't be that bad of an idea. Now, Nyx could go for the Auctioneer and the coin and into like a Novice Engineer, draw 2 cards in the process while getting out 2 minions. That could be pretty good to supplant his hand. Otherwise, I don't really see that many other better options.
Oh wow.
Oh, very nice.
I think what Nyx was thinking there was that he wanted to save the coin for a Ysera.
Yeah.
And he drew Innervate, which is pretty amazing. He can pretty much just Innervate out Ysera next turn. But as we know from StrifeCrow's hand, that he has the Naturalize, which will give him a huge tempo lead if Nyx does decide to play Ysera.
Yeah, because at this point, you know, especially in a matchup like Druid versus Druid, it's all about how your biggest minions can stack up against each other, how much utility you can get out of it. Turn 6, draw for StrifeCrow, another swipe. I'm keeping count this time.
Yeah.
Mark. That's the second swipe.
That's his second swipe. And I think, yeah, this might be one of the best times to use it. He'll spend all his mana and he'll almost clear the board, which is a pretty good deal for a swipe in this matchup, I feel.
Absolutely. Now, Nyhx does have the opportunity to innervate out that Ysera. Does he go for it?
I don't see why not. Oh, he has also potential Ancient of War play.
There you go. That's probably why not. If
But-
he wanted to.
Yeah, but I think probably Ysera's, or the other option is to Ancient of War and then coin the Ysera, and you still save your Innervate, which they're both equally strong plays. Another option is that he can play, another reason he might play Ancient of War is that he wants to bait the Naturalize, because he might suspect that StrifeCrow has that in his hand.
He could be, yeah, you want to bait out his, because you don't want your Ysera to just drop immediately. You want to get 2-3 cards, and then it starts getting kind of out of control because the card advantage and tempo you can get from 4-12 trading is pretty high. Now, StrifeCrow does have a couple of things at his disposal. He can go for the Ancient of Lore, but it immediately would drop. He also can go for Novice Engineer and try to see what he can draw from there.
The problem with the Ancient of Lore is that it would get killed immediately by the Ancient of War. So you want to check for Novice for more options first. And unfortunately, I think StrifeCrow will have to naturalize, making Ysera that much more powerful.
Right, and now StrifeCrow's caught in kind of this awkward position because what happens if he doesn't naturalize? He loses just complete board control. It's really tough to establish anything, and it's already kind of like an awkward mana curve right now for him because he has so many high-cost minions, but he wants to get off of that.
Even though that card was great value and great tempo for that naturalize was great tempo for Strife, he doesn't know that his opponent does indeed have Ysera on the field, which StrifeCrow does not have a counter to in his deck besides naturalize. So that's going to be a huge problem.
Yep. So Nyhx does have the coin. Will eventually drop Ysera. Will he? Maybe he's just trolling all of us. Maybe he's gonna gadget, coin, innervate, wrath, just draw a bunch of cards. Actually, if you do Keeper of the Grove, that counts as a spell as well, right? So you can draw for that. Like the Auctioneer.
I think it does. It might count for a spell. I'm not sure. I very rarely use Auctioneer. It's a card that.
Yeah, it used to be really popular.
Yeah, back in Miracle Rogue days, right? We all want to forget about those days, so we all want to forget about the auction, gadgets and Auctioneer. But this is a strange play because. He gives his opponent more time to.
Wild Growth with the Auctioneer is also pretty nasty. It gives you the ability to draw 2 cards.
If you're at 8 mana.
If you're at 10 mana.
Or if you're at 10 mana, yes. Yeah. We saw that in my match versus ECOP, although it probably wasn't the best
was
use.
Pretty funny. He drew a Wild Growth, used it on turn 10 or turn 11, and then drew another Wild Growth.
The laughter was so loud that I could hear it through the headphones, and I wasn't even sure what was happening because it was delayed on my screen.
Well, now the turn has been passed back to StrifeCrow, who does have a few big drops that he can land. And interestingly enough, one of them is a Ragnaros, but I don't know how much it would help because still, if dropping the Rag, do you think that's the best play here?
I think it is a very good play. It gives the initiative to him, and his opponent has to deal with it somehow. And I'm not sure. I don't think I saw a naturalize.
Nice.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, taking out the Auctioneer.
He can kill it with Wrath. He can kill the Rag with Wrath.
Double Wrath.
Double Wrath.
You can draw a card from it as well.
Exactly. But the problem is that he won't be able to play Ysera this turn. And it gives StrifeCrow the initiative again because he has to use his mana this turn to deal with Rag, and then Strife will be able to Ysera in return.
Is it kind of like the scenario where whoever plays Ysera first wins? If it becomes a Ysera duel?
That, and also how lucky you are with the dream card draws.
Cards.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Blizzard, by the way, who did a cool new animation rework with Ysera.
Yes.
Like this cool little reach into the world of Emerald and pull out a card.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite new animation so far. The others have been the Moonfire from Keeper of the Grove. It's actually now just a shooting star now.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I also really like some of the other animations, like the Nether Void one, the one for the Warlock card, where everything just gets pulled into Galaxy.
Yeah, I don't see that a lot, but when I do, it's pretty amazing. It's definitely the best animation.
Absolutely. All right, so in turn number 9, StrifeCrow is going to try to see if he can take it out, innervate, and drop the Ysera immediately. And now, StrifeCrow can finally claim some board control after 9 turns.
Yes, let's see what he draws. Oh,
A
Dream. Dream is pretty good.
It can if his opponent drops something heavy, he can kind of reset it.
And we do see something heavy in his opponent's hand, which is the counter Ysera.
Or he can silence it if he feels like he
Yeah.
wants to do something with that and then drop some minions.
Silence might be the best option here, although you do lose a Keeper of the Grove. And another problem with Silence is that he doesn't have many other options in his hand to. He doesn't have anything else in his hand
It's
to
still
play.
a 4/12 minion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can't fill out his mana
His
curve.
mana curve.
Yeah,
Unless
he'll have
he
6
wanted to
mana.
Healing touch or something. Perfectly understandable. And
They both
another dream.
Nice.
This is the game of
Double
dreams.
I
Quite
think,
literally.
I think we'll be seeing a lot of bouncing back and forth here.
Uh-huh.
I think Strife might actually be considering. Is he considering a 10 or a 5/10? I don't think so.
5/10, return it to his opponent's
Yeah.
hand, and then just start taking the control from there.
I think.
Wow, what an interesting turnaround
yeah.
this has become.
This is a battle of huge cards. I think all the games we've seen at ESGN Fight Nights have been some of the most interesting Hearthstone games I've ever been able to play or observe.
Yeah, this is. I mean, you haven't seen Druid versus Druid in such a long time, considering the meta was so aggressive and even spell-based because of the mage. Let's see what dream card he gets.
Nightmare.
A pretty useful one, a better power overwhelming.
Yeah. Nightmare can be pretty good against enemy Yseras as long as you think they won't kill you.
Oh, this is fun. He can return his.
It's a dream war.
Oh man.
Night
Ysera. You go night.
I've never seen this before, honestly.
Wow. And another okay, so
they're
I've
just
got to check the coding of this game.
They're
because
just
it seems
mirroring
to
each
be
other.
common.
Yeah.
Oh wow, and even have a Keeper of the Grove.
Now he has 2 choices here. He can either try to silence or he can nightmare his opponent's Ysera. If he
And
does,
then finish it off with Claw.
no, like he gives his he'll give his opponent's Ysera +9 or he'll bluff it to +9, but it will die. So it'll
okay.
basically be the end of
Right.
Ysera.
Oh, okay.
But the counter,
I've never used it like that.
yeah. But the problem with that is that he's gonna buff it. Okay, that's
Yeah,
probably a better
and Claw. And
Yeah.
You can kind of trade.
Okay, that's probably better because he kicks out the Ysera indefinitely. He gets his own Ysera. That's just an amazing play. And he also still gets the
What?
taunt for next turn. Wow, another dream.
This Ysera is one of the nappiest and laziest Yseras I've ever seen. All he wants to do is sleep and dream.
Yeah, sometimes he has nightmares and he's not too happy about that. Those are some pretty good cards. Is he gonna? Okay, silence.
Silence.
Yeah. Silencing the Ancient War would have been a mistake because it'll die next turn anyway.
But what's so... Well, actually, it keeps it alive, if anything.
No. Oh yeah, it'll keep it alive.
'cause
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like, oh, now I have a 5/5.
5/5, but it's still alive.
What's so funny is now he can dream the Ysera and then play it again. And there's just been non-stop rebounding.
Yeah, he can. Okay. He can kill the Keeper, dream it, and play it again. His opponent.
Yeah, and then he
plays
can
Rag.
silence it one more time.
Yeah, but he gets an additional dream card, and hopefully he'll get something like maybe an Emerald Drake. That card is one of the better. I would say one of the better Ysera cards.
Yep. So at this point, I think StrifeCrow's... I mean, he still has a 4/12 minion on
Yeah.
the board. He can still do some really good damage.
I probably would. I'd probably still try to use it, and then I might be greedy and
Play it again? You would play it again?
I would keep it on the board this turn, which he did, and then try to dream it next turn perhaps, because it still has some value. If he kills the Keeper, it'll still be a 10 health creature,
Yep.
which Druid has so much trouble dealing with anyway. But we do see that his opponent has a Rag, so that might be 10 damage. Oh, see, he drew an Ancient Watcher, so he's thinking of the best place to place it. Yeah,
And with the Sun Fury Protector, give it adjacent.
yeah. Give it a taunt.
What did you think when Sun Fury used to give everything taunt at 2 mana? I was like, what? That's a little...
I think now that it gives
sometimes
only
it's kind of weird.
yeah. Now that it only gives 2 adjacent minions taunt, I think
Sometimes
it's
it's even better.
Yeah, no, I think it's almost always better because you can pick which creatures your opponent
It's gonna focus
is
on.
going to focus on. Yeah.
All right, so now we have 9 cards here, or 8 cards. Counting is really hard, Monk.
Yeah.
We have 8 cards here for Nyhx, and he does have this Ragnaros if he wants to drop it, but it's still a little bit of a tough situation. That's his biggest minion option. Also has a Nightmare, which he can use if he wants to.
I think right now he wants to. I think he wants to get rid of the Ysera, and he can do that by nightmaring and swiping. But the problem is that there's still all these huge creatures on the field that he can't deal with, and he won't be able to play Rag this turn. He won't be able to present an additional threat for his opponent to deal with. So StrifeCrow will still have the advantage.
Really interesting position at the same time, because if Nyhx does manage to clear it, there's still so many potential threats that we know about on the board that StrifeCrow can follow up. Really cool to see it. And also something that's kind of unique, despite StrifeCrow trying to deal with everything, look at Nyx's deck compared to Strife's in the draw department. It seems like he's been taking much more, so he doesn't have many options left other than what we see.
I'm really curious to see what the cards remaining in deck are, because in my match against Ecop, I essentially fatigued him out because he drew so many cards from the Gazatan Auctioneer and from my Naturalize. And we saw that StrifeCrow used Naturalize as well, and he drew many cards, and his opponent drew many cards from Gazatan. So I would estimate he would be about 5 or so cards behind him.
He's gonna naturalize his Harvest Golem. Oh, sorry. You were talking about Naturalize.
Yeah.
He is going to Nightmare his Harvest Golem and try to see if he can do some good damage with it first.
Yep.
And take out the Ysera.
That's a good play. If not, Strife could have nightmared it back, and it would have been a lot of trouble to deal with yet another Ysera, or Dream. I'm sorry.
All right, StrifeCrow draws Earthen Farseer. I think it's a really underrated card. 3/3 heals 3. And it's not that it can heal you. That's what's really good. It can restore minions and give it a lot of value while putting on a decent 3-drop.
I think right now Keeper is a very good option to silence the Ancient of War, bringing it back down to a 5/5.
Yep.
But the problem is, I don't think Strife has any good way of killing it, because if he attacks into it with the Harvest Golem or with the Ancient of Lore, he's just going to trade 1 for 1. So there must be a different option, and StrifeCrow I think is playing with. Oh wow!
Use the Dream, on the Ancient of War, and then give his adjacent minions taunt. Definitely at least want to give the Ancient Watcher.
Yes.
Shields up.
At this point, he's going to take some really big board control, because that Harvest Golem is going to die after this turn.
And the question here is, does he charge or does he taunt?
There's a lot of taunts already.
Yeah.
And there's really difficult ways to kind of deal with it. Wouldn't you just charge?
Yeah, I probably would charge at this point. He has to put a lot of pressure on his opponent.
Yep.
He probably knows that his opponent runs healing touches, but even if his opponent does, he'll have to spend 3 or 6 mana in order to healing touch.
Yikes, tough position for Nyhx, as again, he's been holding these healing touches. Now he finally has application for them. But still, even if he does, it's not improving his position whatsoever on the board.
We can see something interesting from the positions on the board and their hands. It's that they have similar number of cards in total if you count the board plus the hand.
Yeah.
But Strife has many more on the field. And I think you can account that based on the decision to use Goblin Auctioneer a few turns ago. Goblin Auctioneer, when he played that, he decided to get bigger advantages in board control, or bigger advantages in card advantage, but he gave up board control now. So we can see the results of that right now, and it's really not looking so pretty for Nyhx.
StrifeCrow can also use this Keeper of the Grove, silence the Ancient of War, and then be able to go all out. How much damage does he have? 7 plus 7, that's 14.
14.
He can't kill him this turn, but he can at least do a lot of big, heavy damage.
Yeah. He should be aware that his opponent runs a lot of healing touches. But this is still a lot of damage. It's an insane number of taunts.
Wow, 3 heavy taunts with 5 health each. That is the money number.
That is probably one of the beefiest boards I've ever seen in my life. And it's Druid. And in fact, this is actually the strategy behind this deck. This deck has, I think, it has 6 taunts now. it has 6 taunts and it has 4 minions that can give taunts, the Sun Fury Protectors and the Defenders of Argus. So you're going to have so many taunts, your opponent's not going to be able to break you, you're going to heal, you're going to build up a great board, and there's really nothing your opponent can do to stop you right now.
At this point, what can you really do here if you're Nyhx? I mean, he's completely cornered to 10 health. Even if he leaves 3 minions, he could potentially get downed. And get completely overrun. He has swipe and he can use Keeper the Grove to kind of play some more damage tricks, but that still doesn't improve too much his position.
Yeah. One thing we can see from Nyx's hand is that he still has Ragnaros. Basically, he never really got a chance to play it because he was always on the back foot every single turn because of the pressure that Strife was putting on. And again, I hate to bring it back to this, but I think it all goes back to that turn that he decided to play Goblin instead of Ysera. He's been on the back foot ever since.
Now Druid has the Claw, and he can kind of pair it with his own Claw if he wanted to, but instead he's going to use the health and taunt because he needs to buy as much time as possible. But let's calculate real quick. I don't think StrifeCrow can end it at the moment either, so Nyhx again doing a good job stalling. He draws a second Sunwalker, and this is a card that I feel like is really underrated. A lot of people don't run it in decks, but especially in a Druid one, I think it fits really nicely.
I think, especially with the nerfs to Argent Commander, Sunwalker is another 6-drop that has been getting a lot of value. It's an alternative to Argent, and sometimes I would argue it's even better than Argent, even though people haven't been exploring it as much.
I bet he wished he drew this a lot earlier to try to get some faster board clears, but it doesn't really matter because Starfall, you can choose to kill one of the minions or I guess the Farseer. I think Nyhx, can he really do anything to stay alive? He can kill off
he can always healing touch and it'll bring him out of range of lethal.
Yes, you're right.
And I think it's a good solution, especially since Strife has no cards in his hand right now. He's actually starting to peter out, which is actually really dangerous. It looks like he was in such a great position, but eventually, I guess with the card advantage that Nyhx had, he's slowly been whittling away at him.
I mean, he's so weak. You look at it, 3 cards left. He still has a few turns where he can survive to it. And now he's going to end his turn and pass it back to StrifeCrow. What's he going to draw? A second Ancient Watcher, which is not what he needs at the moment, but he can drop his opponent down 2 health if he wanted to, or trade at least for the Keeper of the Grove. It's getting pretty tense at this moment.
It is getting very tense. His opponent has a healing touch, I still believe, right?
Yes, he does. So he's gonna at least stay alive for 2 more turns. Ooh, a Novice Engineer at this stage with this low health.
2 cards in hand, it might hurt it. It'll put him to in danger of lethal. So now it's actually, we thought it might have been a race for Strife to finish him off before he ran out of cards.
Time might just do the trick.
Now time might be
the oldest killer in the book.
Yep.
Time often overlooked.
And,
please don't kill me, Time.
Everyone goes someday. I'm sorry, it's the grim and
we're having
morbid
this
truth.
conversation already. Huh?
Wow.
This is a game about Hearthstone, not about life duration.
We'll talk about that some other time.
What can you really do? I mean, he has to kind of hope that he kills a Sunwalker. There's a 33% chance. He can't even healing touch, so this is all or nothing for him.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's still playing defensive and he's losing more room.
Trying to think about what cards Nyhx has left in his deck.
We'll wait for it.
Oh, no.
Oh, and Ragnaros gets the wrong target, and so that will be the conclusion of game number 1 between StrifeCrow and Nyhx. As StrifeCrow will take the first game in this best of 5 series in this Druid vs. Druid mirror.
It actually ended very similarly to my game against
down to the last cards.
Yeah, down to the last cards. Going back to the Goblin Auctioneer, that probably wasn't the best move at that moment, and I still stick with my opinion there.
That was a really close one. Yeah, you played that really well. I don't know if you realized, but you were so far behind in terms of the quality of cards, but you were just like slightly ahead of tempo the entire game. Yeah. He just couldn't play.
The hand at the end, like on my first 7 turns, like I had like 7, 8, 9.
He could have done turn 5 Ysera. Yeah, but he couldn't. He couldn't just because he had stuff on the board.
I mean, you saw the cards in the deck, but it's super heal. It's super heal, super taunt.
Yeah.
So I think.
What would you like to take? Shaman or Mage against Super Heal? I don't think that's Shaman's better.
I think.
Shaman is a big player.
I think it has to be right.
Shaman.
Team DogeHouse is the quietest I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're in a fairly grim position. They're down to 1-2 in a match series, and they are down 0-1 in this
fourth match, which could have huge implications. StrifeCrow is one of the best players, one of the best constructed players. He's been top ranked in the top 50 for a long time. I think he hit number 4 at his peak. He's also competed really highly in tournaments like the 2p.com. He hit top 16, and then unfortunately he had some internet issues. Couldn't make the top 4 to represent North America. But he's always been there. And not only that, he's also been a former pro gamer, so he understands high-level competition.
My favorite class would be the Mage. Right now, everyone thinks that Mage is imbalanced. I mean, I agree with that right now. But Mage has always been one of my favorite classes. The reason why it is my favorite class is because I feel like Mage has a very good tool set for playing like a very calculated control game. That's like the kind of style I prefer playing. And Mage has, freezes, area effect, stuff like drawl. So I think Mage has the most tools to play the type of game I want. So
now we have 2 classes left. The timer is up. We're about to find out. It's Mage versus Shaman. Do you have any ideas? Which do you think you should pick?
I think Mage, because I'm looking at the decks now, and I think the problem with Mage is that StrifeCrow runs healing touches, he runs an Earth and Farseer, he runs a lot of taunts, which can stop Mage aggression.
To get outlasted.
Yeah, and I think the Druid, the Mage is not a very good pick for this format.
So by default, you just pick the Shaman.
Well, also Shaman has 2 of the most powerful cards in the game, which are the 2 hexes. And because StrifeCrow runs a lot of heavy, high-level minions, hexes could be amazing. Yeah, he'll have an answer.
All right, so let's find out what happens in game number 2. Nyhx has got to step it up. Otherwise, he risks losing the lead. In this case, Team DogeHouse would drop the entire series. Let's find out what happens in game number 2. Nyhx and StrifeCrow. StrifeCrow's up 1-0. Other team, no name yet, is also up 2-1. Why'd you guys pick that name, Mo?
Well, it goes back to
it was just to troll me because you knew I was commentating.
Yes, we knew it was a very hard name, but I'll tell you the story later because the match has actually started.
All right, the first starting hand. Keeping Keeper of the Grove as turn 1 is always something I struggle with. Those 3/4 drops, because Druid does play really slow, but a 4 drop to keep in your hand. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think 2 things. First of all, I think it's very good against aggro. The 2 damage is very important. And also, we see that StrifeCrow has an Ancient Watcher in his hand, and a very good play could be to silence the Ancient Watcher and make it a very valuable card.
Completely agree.
And another case where you would keep the Keeper of the Grove is if you have Innervate. And StrifeCrow, this is one area where StrifeCrow disagrees with me. I think Innervate Keeper of the Grove is one of the best moves you can make as Druid. One of the best Innervate moves. Yes, I think.
On turn 2?
Yeah, on turn 2. Whereas StrifeCrow prefers Innervate Druid of the Claw. And wow, we can see Ancient Watcher and Sunfury Protector in his starting hand, which is pretty awesome.
That's money.
Yeah, I ran Ancient Watchers in my deck when I was playing ECOP, but unfortunately I never drew them until I was top decking in the 3rd game in my last 5 cards. Never needed them, so we'll see. We might see how good they are, or maybe how bad they are in this game.
Ancient Watcher, a card that people kind of wrote off for a long time, but in the meta nowadays and the changes to things like Sunfury Protector, people are running it more often. Nyhx, thinking about dropping that Loot Hoarder, he kind of cycled it out because Loot Hoarder is kind of weak to the Druid class initially.
I think actually judging from Nyx's hand and his deck, I think his deck is meant to be an anti-aggro deck, which is similar to what this Druid deck is. We can see Fork Lightning, a card that I don't think usually is very good, but he runs it and it's decent against aggro. Alekin the Weird Lord actually is decent against aggro because it takes out small minions really well.
Yeah, and he can often go 3 for 1.
Yeah, and also he has Blood Knight, which combos really well. Well, it takes away Divine Shield from his opponent's squires, which can give you a 6/6 creature really early.
Well, now that he also knows opponents run Sunwalkers, he might save that until the Sunwalker gets dropped out and have his 6/6 on the board himself for 3 mana. I mean, that all can come into play.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interestingly enough, we have Nyhx still having that loot hoarder. StrifeCrow did not opt to take it out, instead wanted to improve his board position with a Harvest Golem, which is really great, but the Stormforge Axe, one of the most underrated weapons in the game.
Definitely. The thing is, right now, StrifeCrow has, did he end his turn? Yes, he has a lot of options.
Oh man.
But I think the best, he has 2 options. One would be Sunfury, the Ancient Watcher, and attack the loot, or he can silence his Ancient Watcher. And I agree with this option. It makes his Ancient Watcher do a lot while still clearing the field.
And also because the Creeper of the Grove has more versatility as well.
Definitely.
You never know when you want that 2 damage. That can be really clutch, or silencing a bigger target if for some reason he dropped, a big 5 drop like a Sylvanas, but he's overloaded right now. Nyhx has to just totem up and pass the turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the problems with playing Shaman. He used 2 overload cards, and all he could do was play a totem on this turn.
Problems, but I kind of see it as something really cool and a unique advantage because you don't have to pay the cost immediately. A lightning bolt, for example, is 2 mana, but you pay it in different turns. And now we have a situation where StrifeCrow can drop another Sunfury Protector and put 3 taunts on the field. This is kind of nuts.
Yeah, but this is what this deck does.
Wow.
I think one problem that StrifeCrow might be the Lightning Storm, but obviously Nyhx doesn't have it right now. And Nyhx has, I think, 2 obvious options, either the Sylvanas or the Earth Elemental.
Which do you prefer? I know you're a big Sylvanas fan.
Oh yeah, I was one of the first and biggest proponents of Sylvanas.
I got you. Yeah, you saw the hot cheerleader first. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Earth Elemental. I think they're both pretty good choices.
It's just that Earth Elemental has big ramifications the following turn. What can you do in response? You can Hex, versus Sylvanas, maybe you can drop the Earth Elemental later as well. But still, it's not like he drew any Fire Elementals. It doesn't have a guaranteed turn 6 where he can do some big board sweep as well. Now StrifeCrow draws the Healing Touch, and oh my god, more taunts!
Yeah.
StrifeCrow's trolling at this point.
Yep, this deck is full of taunts. That's what we love about it. With the Defender of Argus, his minions go to 3/3/2. If he uses Defender of Argus and runs all his creatures into the Earth Elemental, he could
trade.
He could trade.
He could also use Keeper of the Grove and add some damage.
That's true. And the other thing is that his other option is to silence the Earth Elemental.
And then just ignore it?
Ignore it, and then hopefully his opponent will have to run his Earth Elemental into the taunts. But that's a bit of a more risky play, because if his opponent has Lightning Storm...
Yeah, it clears the board, and all of a sudden you're in big trouble. It takes, just 1 Lightning Storm to change it all.
Well, one other pro of the silencing the Earth Elemental is that his opponent probably didn't have Lightning Storm, because he probably would have used it the turn
already.
before.
Yeah, he would have tried to do his best in that regard. Now with 3 mana, we do know that Nyhx has a Hex, and now he's drawn a Rock Biter. And if he draws a Spell Power Totem, he can try to go for a Fork Lightning, but he doesn't. And now what is he going to choose to do? He could go for 5 damage, take out the Ancient Watcher. I think that's a pretty solid move as well.
Yeah, but the Ancient Watcher definitely got some value there. 1 weapon charge and a Rock Biter weapon. Really good.
And so now StrifeCrow, he doesn't have as many cards, but he's been doing a good job taking control of this board. Now it starts to enter the good mana ranges for Druid. 7+ is always the sweet spot.
Definitely. But we see a problem with Nyx's hand is that he does not have Hex right now. And
he does.
Oh, he does?
Yes.
Okay. But we see, instead of playing the Ancient of War, StrifeCrow used the Druid of the Claw, which baits out the Hex, so he can use the Ancient of War, a much stronger target next turn.
Absolutely.
And oh yeah, there's 1 Hex.
There is only 1 Hex though, and that's kind of the tricky thing. Let's see.
He has a pretty strong play in Hex and then coin out either the Sylvanas or the Earth Elemental. His Alec here probably isn't that great right now because he'll probably have to run into the Druid twice. No.
I feel like that's a big waste of Alec here.
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely. Alec here has been pretty underrated by a lot of people, but I think Team DogeHouse.
I tried making him work. I was telling I think it was Nyhx, I was saying, or was it Krip? I tried really making him work with things like Ancestral Spirit or like Rockbiters or even like Flame Tongues, but it just didn't feel right for me. And these guys are really trying to make it work, but we haven't seen a proper application of it yet.
Yeah. After the series, I actually really want to ask them like what they thought about how it did in practice, because I'm honestly really interested.
Another Earth Elemental coming in. This is part of what Control Shaman's all about, just seizing control of the board. And we saw the last Earth Elemental take 3 cards off the board, and as well as 2 buffed ones. So very good value out of that. And just look, Nyhx still has a lot of options in his hand to follow up, but still StrifeCro's been dealing with it very well. And he even drew a swipe to be able to answer his opponent.
Yeah, swipe. This is probably one of the best swipe targets that's in the deck. Normally Shaman will have lots of totems on the field, but in this particular instance, the problem is that StrifeCrow has been maintaining board control for the most part, and he's not letting him get these
He's not letting him get his. He's not able to stabilize whatsoever. It just feels like whenever he does, it's always another crisis that he has to deal with at the moment.
Yeah.
And then Argent Squire is not going to help his position whatsoever, and he's overloaded. That's the worst part, because he doesn't have the full 8 mana that he can use to do anything else. This is not looking good for Nyhx whatsoever going into turn number 8. And if he goes down 0-2, we've seen Artosis almost make a comeback, but it's just really difficult to beat a deck 3 or win with a deck 3 times in this kind of level of competition.
Yeah, he's Nyhx has to be defensive right now playing the Argus. He really wants to survive this turn, so he can make use of his full mana and not just overloaded mana next turn. And I think he's done a successful job of surviving, actually.
Yep, so, I mean, that's part of the challenge with the slow Druid deck. You don't have the immediate answer to burst your opponent sometimes. But over time, I mean, he's been willing him down, and once again, going for the face, 6 health, and a big Ancient of War dropped onto the field. This could be Nyx's last turn.
Yeah, I want to see a Nyx's hand again, but
Fire Elementals certainly does help.
But probably not so much. He has to get rid of the Ancient. He has to get rid of the Ancient of War. The problem with Shaman right now in this metagame is that it doesn't have heals, which is actually pretty important, like against mages and in this situation. So he
maybe Hex. He could use a Forked Lightning and the Fire Elemental to get a lot of board.
Okay.
So that Fire Elemental was really clutch, in my opinion.
Oh wow! I think he can actually clear this board.
Yeah.
Really amazed.
Really nicely done.
Wow.
Great
perfectly.
order, and he's able to at least maintain board control and have a card advantage too. Excellent turn from Nyhx.
Yeah, that was pretty much the best he could have hoped for, and I'm actually amazed that he was able to do that.
Yeah, the Fire Elemental was super clutch, and also a demonstration of why that card might be slightly overpowered.
Oh wow. Right now,
This is awkward.
Yeah. If Nyhx doesn't have any more taunts, then it could be really dangerous. If he draws swipe, then Nyhx is dead, and he can race him in the face, and next turn he'll be able to do 3 damage.
But he always has the option of toteming and 25% chance of getting the taunt totem.
Wow.
RNG.
That's pretty imbalanced taunt totem.
Ooh, Hex. Hex could actually be pretty useful as well, and he also has Alakir.
Yeah.
So that taunt in itself is also really big.
Yeah. Some people forget that Alakir is actually a taunt, which.
Yeah. Well, it's the last thing named. I mean, people always think of it. Oh, cool. I haven't actually seen the new animation. Being extremely safe as well, making sure no options whatsoever to answer, and he keeps the Divine Shield on it.
Oh.
Ooh. A Ysera has been drawn by StrifeCrow. Alright, and so he obviously wants a Ysera Awakens. That'd be the best case scenario in the next turn. He's got it.
He's got it. I think he wants to proc the shield. So basically the Alakir doesn't hit him twice, doesn't hit the Ysera twice. And do we see?
Ooh.
Laughing Spirit, that's probably the worst one.
Yeah, because, well, Yeah, you don't want to dream it either. So
Yeah.
so in this scenario, that's not the card that he wanted, and now he can hex it if he so desired.
Well, 25% chance of a win right there. Unfortunately, StrifeCro didn't get it, and he's in a lot of trouble. He's
I
lost.
thought there's
more
5 dream cards.
There's 5?
Is there 4?
There might be 5. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, there's Nightmare, the Dream, and then
Nightmare.
Ysera Awakens, and then 2 creatures.
Yeah,
so
that's
there's
right.
5.
You're right. There is 5.
I can count that much. I can count to 5, but not to 8. It applies both to English and German. Sylvanas
That's
Windrunner
impressive.
is something that's been debated a little bit. The Hex is obviously something that Nyhx is kind of contemplating because, again, he realizes if he allows the Ysera to keep going, drawing the Awakens, it's instantly game over. But he's not out of this yet. He's not out of this yet.
The thing is, I'm struggling to see what kind of outs that StrifeCro has. If he had 4 mana...
Did he play Ragnaros yet?
Oh, you're right. He didn't play Ragnaros yet. That's one option.
He also has... does he have any more swipes?
He has 1 swipe, but again, it wouldn't do 5 damage. He doesn't have any
spell power.
No spell powers in this deck.
No Thalnos in this deck.
Yep.
Did he ever explain to you why? Does he not like Thalnos or something?
I think the problem, he's not running Wrath in this deck, which is different from my version.
I gotcha.
And
Ooh, Healing Totem doesn't exactly help him, but better than the Searing one. The Searing one would have been the worst case scenario. You can't hex the Druid.
well, I can't.
Silliness.
I honestly can't believe that he's
Still alive in this game.
no, that he's deciding that he was contemplating whether to hex the
The Ysera.
Yeah.
That's almost an instant call. I
Yeah.
think he's just trying to really calculate everything. You know, sometimes you're holding a card over, but you're not really thinking about that. StrifeCro's still caught in a pretty awkward position. Next turn, he could potentially lose if he doesn't do anything, but he still has Healing Touch and Ancient of War to give himself a lot.
See, the problem here is that if he plays the 5/10 Ancient of War, the Sylvanas can just attack into
And
it.
steal it.
Steal
it's
it.
the same scenario as you were in, honestly.
But unfortunately, he's not as in a greater position as I was in. He's not fatiguing his opponent. If he plays that, he definitely has to play the 10/5.
But what else can you do? The Laughing Sister is a 3/5, I believe, and that's not going to give you anything. In fact, let's see, there's 17 damage on the board, and the heals for 8, so you have 20, and then your opponent can just like lightning bolt, so it's a little bit too risky.
Oh wow, he is going for it.
I
see.
He's going to drop it.
He's hoping for the RNG, hoping for Sylvanas to take the Laughing Sisters.
That's a big risk.
But I think it was the best play.
Yeah, that's what he's got to do.
50-50, come on, RNG.
All right, so you know what to do, Nyhx. And if he manages to come back from this... Wait! If he takes... No, doesn't he win anyways? Because he can do the Elemental and the Elakir, and then just... Oh...
He doesn't have
if he
lethal
doesn't
this
take
turn,
it.
yeah.
Right, okay. If he can take it. If he can take it.
50-50 chance that
Right, so if he does take the, because we were so focused so much on the minion, but if he takes the minion, not only does he seize control, but he also wins the game straight up. It's now or never. Oh, he takes the other minion instead, the Laughing Sister.
Now StrifeCrow is still in a pretty bad position, but he still will be alive next turn.
Yeah, at least he gets one more, and he did manage to take out at least the Fire Elemental. Alakir coming through.
The light protects me.
I probably
You could save the Blood Knight because you know he has a Sunwalker.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
I don't think Sunwalker would save him in this position.
Now, Starfire Starfire? No.
No, Defender of Argus. He can use the healing touch if he wants to, but it's not going to matter. StrifeCrow is going to concede, and we have ourselves a series. It's cool because we finally see a Shaman winning a game.
But we finally see a non-Druid winning a game, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people are complaining about mages, but the weekend has been all about the Druid. But not anymore, as we now have both Druid decks down, and StrifeCrow is now reduced to an option between Mage and Paladin. What do you think?
Let's see, Shaman. I would have to say the Mage is a better choice. Again, Shaman doesn't have a lot of heals, so when you're playing against the Mage that has so many Pyroblasts, Fireballs, Fire Blasts, Frost Novas, you name it, a lot of direct damage to the face. It can be really hard for for the Shaman to
recuperate.
To recuperate and to survive to turn 8. As we saw in Trump's game against Jimsh, he
There's a Z in his name all of a sudden.
How do you pronounce it?
It's Nyhx.
Nyhx. Okay. Against Nyhx, we found that Trump was actually in a pretty good position, but unfortunately, he was at 20 health and 2 Pyroblasts to the face.
Unfortunately, he was at 20 health.
Yes.
You don't hear that too often. Now, Strife is so confident, he's not even going to Krip and Trump for advice. Strife's like, I got this.
Well, actually, before the games, we planned it out. And we were saying the Shaman or the Mage would definitely be going against the Shaman. The Pally would definitely be going against the Mage. And I think this game is very key in that if he wins right now, I feel like our Paladin deck.
Right, it's set up perfectly.
It's set up perfectly to counter any mages.
Well, that's the plan of StrifeCrow. Nyhx, well, things haven't been going perfectly to plan, but at least he evened up the series as we get ready for game number 3. The best of 5 has now reset to a best of 3. Nyhx has evened it up, and he has a pretty decent starting hand.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best starting hands you can ask for as a Shaman.
Good removal, good presence on the board. No complaints, instantly confirmed. Now this is kind of cool that we see out of StrifeCrow, and we saw out of Trump earlier, a Nat Pagle. You're from that team, can you explain it a little bit?
Well, I feel like Nat Pagle is a very underrated card. It has a 50% chance of drawing the card, but the thing is, it will almost trade even if it doesn't draw a card, it will almost always trade evenly with the opponent in terms of card advantage. For example, if he plays Nat Pagle now, and even if he doesn't draw a card, his opponent will play the Rockbiter weapon. See, he doesn't draw a card right now, but that's fine because the opponent, it trades for the Rockbiter weapon, 1 for 1.
Yep, and well, to an otherwise minion he would play and just lose instantly. And so with that regard, Nyhx is kind of calculating everything out. Does he go for the Novice Engineer? Does he try to draw a little bit more greedy, to be honest, or try to clear out the immediate threat? And that's kind of the advantage of the coin, which Monk, I know you're very vocal about what you think about the coin.
Yeah, the coin is a bit silly, but back to this game in particular.
Oh, a lightning bolt, really? I mean, Rockbiter has more versatility. But
it's all about if
overload for turn 3.
It's all about if he wants to play the Novice or the Harvest Golem next turn.
Yeah.
And
I think it develops his board more if he goes for the Harvest Golem, but getting the card advantage from Novice sometimes is also very good.
And remember that he has Alakir in his deck, so one of his finishing moves that he might be striving for is of course the Rockbiter Alakir.
So now StrifeCrow has the turn. He could choose to use his Fireball, or Fire Blast, excuse me, to knock off the Divine Shield or go for the Loot Hoarder. I really hate playing Loot Hoarder when there's an Argent Squire on the board, and I always opt to rather ping off the shield.
And I guess so does StrifeCrow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would you choose differently?
No, I think I'd choose the same thing. And although I think StrifeCrow would probably be more likely to play the Loot Hoarder than me.
All right, so StrifeCrow also draws a Blizzard, so his hand's starting to develop really nicely. Keep in mind, this is also a Frozen Giants deck, so you stack a lot of cards with things like Nat Pagle, like your Loot Hoarders and your Novices, and then you're able to drop that Mountain Giant very early on and try to pick off your opponent's health and make it easier to get within Pyro range.
Another thing is that we noticed there's a Mountain Giant in StrifeCrow's hand, and fortunately for Nyhx that he has a Hex to deal with it. But again, this deck has essentially 5 Giants, 2 Mountain Giants, 2 Molten Giants, and the Alexstrasza, which is essentially a Giant.
It's an 8/8.
It's an 8/8 card, and
it's a Giant that has wings.
Yes, it can.
And really bad breath. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Bad breath that can make you go down to 15 life.
Yeah. And it has wings because I guess it drank Red Bull.
Oh yeah, nice. Good subtle plug there.
Well, I'm not sponsored by Red Bull or anything, but
maybe they thank you with a nice case.
Yeah, maybe. Red Bull, get on that.
We see that he's gonna, instead of dropping the Novice Engineer, StrifeCrow just drops the Loot Hoarder and then weakens the Harvest Golem to prevent any trades.
One of the problems with Shaman is that it has problems dealing 1 damage to things, so the Loot Hoarder is generally a better play, especially in this situation where he would either have to trade. Before we knew about the Stormforge Axe, we thought he would have to trade one of his minions for that Loot Hoarder. But fortunately, it worked very well for him.
And the healing totem, pretty clutch to waste 2 mana from his opponent and trade hero powers. First Pyroblast is in the hand, and now StrifeCrow does have the option to Blizzard or Giant, if he so desires. He does have 8 cards in his hand.
Yes. 8 cards in his hands.
I need to stop making a habit of counting cards. Both in real life and Hearthstone.
Oh, well, Thalnos, Chrome Cold, very good value. That's probably one of the best plays you can make with Thalnos. And and again, Thalnos will die, but it will also get him a card, and which will let him play Mountain Giants later. And one thing about StrifeCrow's Mountain Giant deck is that I think he plays it differently from a lot of the Europeans and the other team.
What do you mean?
Well, some things he runs are, of course, the Nat Pagel, which everyone seems to be so interested in.
And a Doomsayer as well.
Oh, Doomsayer. Well, the Europeans do that as well.
Okay.
But the biggest change, I think, is mirror images, and I really hope that he shows the tech of mirror images. Basically, what most people do with mirror images is just play it haphazardly. But what he does is that he protects his big creatures, such as Doomsayer, such as Nat Pagel, such as Mountain Giants even.
Really interesting. I mean, we will see if that ever comes into play, but for now, StrifeCrow doesn't really have that at his disposal, but he is going to drop the Giants, and that's going to play perfectly into the Hex, like you were mentioning, from Nyhx, if he so desired. He will. He's going to immediately take that out and use the Stormforge action to finish it. Oh, no, just kidding. Forgot that the Healing Totem gets +1. Healing Totem, pretty intimidating face. Probably doubles as a Scarecrow in October.
We see that Nyhx actually has a lot of damage in his hand right now, and he might be trying to burst.
Yeah, he's got 22 in his hand alone.
Yeah.
And he's also got an Ice Block, which is really key. Flame Strike wouldn't help him out in the the most, because there's still going to be 1 minion on the board. Blizzard is also still really versatile.
The problem with Blizzard is that he has no other freezes in his deck right now, and
he doesn't run Frost?
No, sorry, he has no more freezes in his hand right now.
I see.
So he'll probably be forced to play Flame Strike next turn if he does do that, unless of course he draws a freeze. But you really don't want to use your turn 8 to play Flame Strike. It loses a lot of tempo, which your opponent can draw more cards that are nukes essentially. And honestly, if his opponent draws Alakir very soon, it'll spell major problems.
This is one thing that's kind of been understated as playing as a mage. Decision making, if you don't have the lead in terms of health, like a big chunk of your opponent, can sometimes be really punishing if you don't make the right decisions of how you want to leave things. And so, unless your decision is very clear of like Frost Nova, Blizzard, Flame Strike, Frost Nova again, Cone of Cold, then it can get pretty tricky. As right now we see StrifeCrow is still fishing for something that he can do, because his opponent's still at a pretty healthy health count at the moment.
I think StrifeCrow, he's been hovering over Ice Block a lot, which I think means that he's aware of the potential threat of the Alakir combo, because he did see my games against ECOP, and he must be assuming that his opponent is running the same deck, because he did see Alakir from the previous game as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I know he knows he has Rock Virus. It's a pretty big staple in all of Shaman games, so he can expect that for sure.
I think normally it'd be a very clear play to play the Mountain Giant. Yeah, to play the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, what's holding him back? Was he thinking about something?
He's afraid of the combo essentially.
But that's even though the combo is 18 damage at most, but. Yeah,
but again, he has the sword and he has the lightning bolt in his hand.
But he can't do it until he has 10 mana as well, so he still
exactly.
has 1 turn maybe. It's kind of like an interesting pseudo OTK scenario for him. So he can go for the Ice Block and the Novice Engineer.
And another option is that he might be able to get. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, just eliminate any health threat.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see him play just so carefully with so much health, because you see people be really reckless all the time.
Just judging from this deck, it feels like it's actually an anti.
Mind if I roll knee?
In some ways, it's an anti-mage deck, but actually, I think it's just a anti-control deck that's been tuned to be especially good against mages.
Yeah, some elements in it to help hurt mages really badly.
Yeah.
Look at this real quick, Mark, before you forget anything. We have an Alex Straza draw from StrifeCrow, which can set the health to 15 of his opponent, and then finish it off with maybe a Pyroblast or a couple of Fireballs mixed in between.
And remember that Alexstrasza itself is a
Is an
quote-unquote giant
Yeah.
with 8/8 stats.
Whoa.
So his opponent, because he hasn't put that much pressure on him, will be forced to deal with it somehow.
And the reversal. Nyhx is suddenly put in a big pressure moment. Oh, the Alec here. And the Rock Biter. Not only can he attack the mage, but he can also kill Alexstrasza as well. Still doesn't solve his health issues though.
He's thinking.
Oh no, he did it in the wrong order. Because he attacked with the Loot Hoarder first. Oh, so instead he's gonna have to trade with the Alexstrasza.
That's no problem.
Or is that what he wanted to do from the beginning?
Yeah, I think actually, I think Nyhx is dead. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead right now because he Pyroblast,
and then he can ping him.
Frost Nova.
Yeah.
There's no way his opponent can heal.
And then
Yeah. What can he do, honestly?
He there's no way to destroy the secret.
Yeah.
And so no matter what, StrifeCrow gets 2 turns. Oh no.
He essentially needed to ping off the. Okay, this is a good move.
He has to do something, but that's.
There's nothing in his deck. There's nothing in. Oh wow, Ragnaros. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it's a little too late, and he must know that his opponent has the cards to kill him.
It comes down to the very last thing, that big Alexstrasza draw, and now the ice block has procced.
Well, maybe he was hoping that it was ice barrier, and then he would have won there, but unfortunately.
Instead, it's not going to be enough. Nyhx has dropped the 3rd set, and StrifeCrow goes up 2-1. For other team, no name yet. Wow, intense. Coming down to the last second. Looked like Nyhx was good, and then the flip with Alexstrasza in turn 9.
Alexstrasza does tend to turn around games, that's true.
Yeah, and
such an amazing card.
And it has so much versatility too, because not only do you use it on your opponent, you can use it on yourself in really desperate situations where you have 1 health, bring yourself back to 15, and then give yourself potentially another turn.
Yes, speaking of that, I think in the next game, which will definitely be a mage versus mage, I think Alexstrasza on yourself is probably an even better use of Alexstrasza generally than Alexstrasza on your opponent, because you're always racing, and it's just one way to heal essentially. And it's when you combo it with Ice Block, you essentially heal for 14 damage, and you present a threat on the field, and which generally your opponent won't be able to deal with.
Really tough situation for Nyhx. He's down to his last strike. He does have a mage deck, but I will tell you straight up that it's not like the mage decks that we've been seeing earlier. It's a little bit different, but that's also why mage is really cool, because it's flexible. He's going to be playing more of an aggressive style.
Mage is definitely the most flexible class, and it's one of the reasons it's been doing so well in tournaments lately. Mage can, I think, run about 5 different types of decks depending on how aggro you want to be, how burny you want to be, or even how generally just like control-y you can be. For example, there are a lot of healing decks which are meant to counter the standard mage burn decks and aggro decks. But what you can do with mage is you can sideboard all those cards out, and you can put in like creatures like Water Elemental, Ragnaros, make it more of a control deck with like even polymorphs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they'll have the counters to the burn, but they won't be able to remove your board.
Yeah, it's still a tough situation. We'll find out if Nyhx has what it takes to bring it back. We have 10 seconds left. Nope, we have 5 seconds left until Nyhx has to prove himself, because it's now or never for Nyhx. All right, so game number 4 is about to begin. Who's going to take it, Nyhx or StrifeCrow? Let's find out. Starting hand for StrifeCrow and Nyhx. Nyhx gets a Cone of Cold and an Argent Squire, Novice Engineer. Not bad. Let's see what StrifeCrow has.
Wow. I definitely have to say that StrifeCrow got the better end of things. The problem with Nyx's opening hand, even though he has a pretty good curve for turns 1 and 2, he's just not being aggressive enough with his cards, which you really need with an aggro mage versus the freeze mage. And also, before we begin, we can say that Nyhx is running the aggro mage, and StrifeCrow is running the freeze mage.
It's very minion intensive. It allows you to get a lot of board presence through buffs, and you get tons of damage out, and then finish it off with some spells. And there's even some really cool stuff that you can see in combination with things like Dyke Arndorf, Shattered Sun Cleric, and even some minions like Defender of Argus.
StrifeCrow really has to draw that 3-drop, or he'll be in a lot of trouble. Not doing almost any damage in the first few turns with Aggro Mage versus Freeze Mage is completely unacceptable. So hopefully, okay, a Squire.
All right.
Not the best, but he can definitely ping this turn,
Bring
and
him
then
down 27.
and then buff the Squire next turn.
Especially with mages, every single hit point matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for Nyx, he really has to make something happen. StrifeCrow does have the option to double Arcane Intellect. That's a little bit of a... Well, you usually don't want to draw them at the same time this early on. But you do have the option of getting some pretty powerful cards in response, and now he's going to pass his turn.
It's respectable. Dark Iron Dwarf is the obvious choice here.
Good card to use, especially on the Argent Squire. And now we're finally starting to get some pressure on for Nyx.
You can see that that Nyx placed his Dark Iron Dwarf away as far as possible from the Argent Squire. Even though they'll still get hit by Cone of Cold, he's preparing for future turns where if he places more minions in the center, weaker minions in the center between the Dark Iron Dwarf and the Squire, both of them can't get hit at the same time. But unfortunately, there is the Cone of Cold this turn, so it won't matter as much.
Yeah, this is usually where you want to put things like Fairy Dragons in the middle and ways to prevent your opponent, but you know, without that, it's going to be a little bit hard for Nyx to kind of keep putting on pressure because there's a lot of options for StrifeCrow, although he's right now wondering about all of them. He's hovering over the Arcane Intellect as if he wants to draw even more cards, but he already has 9. It's a little excessive.
It definitely is. I don't think he wants to get any lower for the Molten Giants because, well, the thing is he does have an Ice Block, so it's essentially an additional life. But the non-greedy play would be the Cone of Cold. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. Oh, I guess he's waiting for next turn. He'll be able to ping, and then Cone of Cold, and as long as his opponent doesn't play another creature in between, he'll get everything. Or he
trying to maybe get everything in one
go.
Well,
yeah, he can ping right now. Oh wow, this is okay. I like that. I can live with that.
And but what he doesn't know is there's another Dark Iron Dwarf in the hand of Nyx if he wants to continue to put out more minions. And even a Sylvanas as well, but Sylvanas against a non-minion heavy creature deck is not really as useful as you would think it is.
Definitely. And it'll definitely get frozen next turn. We see this Cone of Cold in Nyx's hand, which is going to be an essentially useless dead card. So we can even just forget that exists for now.
So now that Nyx has a Sylvanas that could potentially go on the board, he can drop his opponent to 19. That puts the Giant at 9. And there's also this weird balance where sometimes you don't want to kill the Mage at all or lower them to like the 11 to 13 range because then they can drop really cheap Giants and then all of a sudden you're put on the clock and it's really difficult to turn it around. Yeah,
with most decks I like to bring the Mage to around the 13 to 14 range, but there are some decks that I've seen on Reddit that attempt to put the Mage at 21 health exactly, and they're kind of ridiculous and they just try to out-heal your opponent and then fatigue them. They're
just like play super defensive. And, oh wow. That's certainly an interesting approach. I don't really know if I agree with that. Now we have Nyx drawing a Shattered Sun Cleric, so he can keep his minions alive a little bit longer if he wants to. Still, though, this is just one of the most frustrating things to be in this position as Mage because you want to, versus Mage because you want to be able to do something, but your minions are too cold. Get him a jacket or something.
Yeah. The thing Nyx is right now deciding between playing more minions or fireballing and fire blasting straight to the face. The problem is
going to lower him to a good health range for the Giants.
Yeah. Also, another problem is that but the alternative, which is to develop your board, is really weak to Blizzard. Do you know if StrifeCrow has Blizzard right now?
I don't remember seeing it. But I mean, he also has draw potential in his hand if you want to do something. So he could draw it next turn regardless. And I think Nyx developing the board in the end is a better choice because again, fire blasting or fireballing into a 13 health is still it's a little bit too convenient for the Giants.
Ooh, mirror images.
Oh, that's a card you don't see run too often anymore. Before, it used to be pretty popular.
I think one option here is to fireball the Sylvanas. I'm not sure how he feels about that. The thing is with mirror images, it gives something for the Cone of Cold to be useful against. See, he's picking up the fireball. He's thinking about
dropping it because he doesn't have the frost, and if he uses the Arcane Intellect, he doesn't have good options after that.
The thing is, if he does use the fireball, it's probably an indication to his opponent that he doesn't have any more freezes in his hand, or he doesn't have anything that good that he can play. So it might be better. It might be a message to him that he should.
And he gets the Frost Nova, although he didn't know if he did that first, he could stall for time. And now, a big important card, Argent Commander.
Hold on, back up a bit, and I think that was a misplay by StrifeCrow. Whenever you have an idea to play the Novice Engineer,
you should always do it first to draw the card.
Always, when you have draw cards, always play them first. The cards that you might draw might change your plans completely, and which it did in this case.
It does, and now instead StrifeCrow will pay for it with his life, but that will give him the opportunity to drop the Molten Giant for only 1 mana.
Oh wow!
And a Doomsayer Frost Nova, which gives him another turn essentially against the mage.
Well, he definitely wants to use the Doomsayer, or he definitely wants to use the Frost Nova. But the question is whether he wants to combo it with the Molten Giant.
He can do Frost Nova, Doomsayer, and Ice Block to get all the conditions set before it, so he doesn't have to worry about it next turn. But still, StrifeCrow still under big pressure. Doesn't have any of his Pyroblasts. He used one of his Fireballs already, and Nyhx has managed to develop his board really powerfully. And without without any action taken against it, he can die next turn.
Definitely. I'd definitely be. The thing is, I don't think there's any. He might be able to use 2 Fireballs, his opponent Nyhx, but that's highly unlikely, or that's fairly unlikely. But I think StrifeCrow does want to lean on the bit safe side right now. I think the best play right now is to do the Frost Nova, Doomsayer, but
and then what?
And then the Ice Block.
Ice Block, yeah.
Again, developing your board. Oh wow, this mirror images.
Use the Frost Nova and the mirror images. Yeah.
See, this
stall for time.
This is what I was talking about.
Choice difference between you and StrifeCrow?
Oh no, not choice difference, but the 1 mirror images that splash into this deck. This is exactly what it's for. Even though your opponent might have ways to kill the giant otherwise, they might struggle with the mirror images.
And now StrifeCrow will have at least 1 turn where he can do some damage to Nyhx. And now Nyhx has to kind of think about what he needs to do because he can't really activate the secret. He knows it's Ice Block. I mean, it could be a chance of Ice Barrier or whatnot, but people really don't run the other secrets. Do you have any opinions on the other secrets of Mage? It's just not worth running?
Well, it's pretty funny because these days on ladder and everywhere in competitive play, no one actually checks for the other secrets. The other secrets are essentially...
You just assume it's Ice Block?
Yeah, the other secrets are essentially a joke. But I have seen some tournament deck lists runs things like Counterspell.
Yeah, to prevent the spells going up.
Well, not just that, because no one checks for them anymore and they don't play around them.
They get away.
They get away with it and it's hilarious.
Yeah, and some people just like epic waste the mind controls of Pyroblast, and it's like such a big devastating loss. A big top deck from StrifeCrow as he gets a Blizzard, and he can clear the board and freeze everything.
Yeah, he has to decide whether he wants to give up his giant this turn. I think pinging pinging the Argent Commander and then Blizzarding would be a pretty awesome move.
Yeah. I mean, what else would he do in this regard? Because if you use Blizzard, then you only have 2 follow-ups, 3 follow-ups. You can Novice Engineer, you can draw more cards with her. Like,
oh wow! I did not expect this. Okay, he's gonna Blizzard. Okay, I understand this. Yeah, I guess.
Blizzard, freeze it, have more option to draw cards.
Yeah, I guess the thing is he doesn't have many. Surprisingly, he hasn't drawn any Pyroblasts. He used his 1 Fireball, and he doesn't have Alexstrasza. So.
But if he does draw on the next turn, he does have enough draw to kind of make it. I mean, StrifeCrow still is very much in this game despite the Hell's count telling you otherwise. Don't be fooled. And now he's going to pass it over to his opponent, and he's going to give up his mirror image.
Hopefully his opponent has drawn a freeze, which he has not. Although the Defender of Argus acts as something else to prevent giants from doing damage.
Yeah.
In this matchup, you really have to prevent the giants from doing any damage. His other option is to fireball the Molten Giant and fire blast him, but again, you really want to save your damage spells for the actual life of the mage.
Yeah, and if you really need to, you can use in desperate situations, as we saw StrifeCrow do it against the Sylvanas. But I completely agree. It's actually like a really confident thing for the person who sees like, oh, he used a fireball on my minion. I don't have to worry about that because it's 1 of 2.
Oh yeah. Another problem is that if you use all the fireballs, pyros, and everything, and your opponent Alexstrasza's to 15, his own life back to 15, basically this deck doesn't have any solutions in the late game to get your opponent down besides those direct damage. And if you exhausted all that direct damage, basically you've lost.
A critical moment in this game for Nyhx, as he spent about a minute thinking about what he needs to do. Fairy Dragon and Argus combination with the ping could be really powerful. As right now he's going to take out the mirror image. Again, trying to decide where he can drop it. Ooh, think about the fireball and then picking it off that way. All right. So
Okay,
he's going to use the fireball on the giant instead.
No need yet to a Defender of Argus. That if he did, he might be vulnerable to a Flame Strike. And also, there was nothing on his opponent's side of the field that was threatening direct damage-wise for him.
StrifeCrow can draw 2 cards off his Argus if he his Acolyte of Pain if he wants to attack into it, and then use his own Fire Blast to knock it down. Ooh.
Unfortunately, that's not very useful right now because he has so few cards in his hand.
Yeah, 7 mana is pretty expensive. He also can use Arcane Intellect if he wants to Hail Mary a second Ice Block.
Oh, and he top stacks a Blizzard.
Wow. So StrifeCrow still has multiple outs here in his hand. And, you know, pay attention also to Nyx's hand. He doesn't really have too many options to really do stuff. He's just playing most of what he has. He has a Dark Iron Dwarf left, as well as one of the other cards that doesn't come to mind immediately. The Blizzard does drop and wipes out 2 minions on the board. And StrifeCrow is going to pass it over to Nyx. See what he's going to do next.
A problem with Nyx's deck is that he doesn't run many cards that draw him additional cards. Just looking from the deck list.
That's the Argus, I forgot.
Just looking from the deck list, there's basically only Novice Engineer, whereas StrifeCrow can draw almost as many cards as he wants. So in this,
he's got a Frost Nova too, so he's got a lot of turns.
Yeah, Frost Nova, Doomsayer, clear the board. His opponent will be drawing 1 card every turn. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
And then he can Ice Block.
Oh.
A Cone of Cold, and the Fairy Dragon is not in the center because the Argus had to go between it.
Unfortunate.
Oh, very, very tough. So the only way that Nyx can, well, he needs to top deck something like a Pyroblast to get him within 1 health and then continue to proc it and put him on the clock. But still, this is a very, very tight situation. StrifeCrow, could he do it? I really think he can. If he's drawing the right cards, he's still missing his Pyro. He has 8 cards left and he still hasn't drawn a Pyroblast.
I think that actually might be for the best. He wants to end with those Pyroblasts. He wants to end with the Pyroblast, so...
Doesn't have any more Blizzards.
He doesn't need them right now, yeah.
Setting up all of his draws. You can Cone of Cold to end things off.
I think Cone of Cold Doomsayer?
And Cone of Cold Doomsayer. Cone of Cold with a Thalnos and ping something off. Or you can't ping something off.
Right?
Yeah, I think the Doomsayer is better.
Oh, definitely.
I was counting the mana.
I don't think there's probably not going to be any instance whatsoever later on of the Doomsayer getting any value.
Yeah, I think so. And now StrifeCrow is going to pass it over to Nyx. Nyx gets an Acolyte of Pain.
Unfortunately, it's an Acolyte. His only move really is to play the Acolyte and ping it.
Yep.
And
use his own Fire Blast to proc this trigger.
The thing is, if the thing with Doomsayer is that I don't think the Acolyte takes any damage when it dies from the Doomsayer, so I don't think he'll actually draw a card from the Acolyte of Pain.
That's unfortunate as well. He's going to end his turn. And he doesn't draw any cards from it, and now StrifeCrow draws 2 cards, 1 for the Loot Hoarder, 1 for his turn. Also has to kind of be careful, because if he can't end it soon, but he does draw his Alexstrasza, but if he doesn't eventually end it soon, he also enters fatigue areas.
Yeah, I think
Alexstrasza and the Molten Giant is a pretty nasty combo at this point.
definitely. I don't think there's probably any way to stop that. But again, I think probably a better play would be to play both Giants right now, and then maybe Alexstrasza the next turn to go for lethal.
Yeah, that can be a great setup. And then even drop out the Thanos. Why not?
Why not? It's interesting that he put it in the middle.
Yeah. It's
I honestly,
kind of like a stylistic thing.
yeah.
Oh no, Nyhx draws a Shattered Sun Cleric.
We must cleanse the
He has to freeze the Giant. And he does. Picks off the Thanos and gives StrifeCrow yet another card. And StrifeCrow, he's surely drawn to Power Blast by now, don't you think? The odds of it are so high.
I guess not.
Really? Okay, here we go.
There we
Pyro
go.
Blast. Alexstrasza, and then you can Giant attack and bring him down to 7 health.
I'd probably honestly play it. I don't think StrifeCrow can realistically lose right now, but maybe. Okay.
No, there's really nothing you can
There's
do.
really nothing you can do.
A miracle miraculously pops out. Now Nyhx gets the top deck, and he's able to do something, but I think he expects everything. He's gonna concede. Nyhx drops battle number 4, and that means that StrifeCrow is gonna take the series 3-1, and other team, no name yet, is up 3-1 in the series. A really close series between Krip and Artosis, and then obviously you played really well 3-0 for your series, and then StrifeCrow coming through 3-1. We've seen all kinds of games, all kinds of series. I'm really happy with how today came out.
Yeah, I'm really happy as well. And in fact, all the series that we've seen throughout the week, they're probably some of the best Hearthstone I've seen yet. I think part of it is because of all the new balance changes, but I want to take some credit for the people playing here. Part of it is some of the innovation that has been going on between both our teams. Not just thanks to me, but thanks to all the teams here.
Yeah, well, I think it's really cool seeing dominance of Druid, because a lot of people were expecting Mage. That's all the rage nowadays. Mage is all the rage. But instead, we see a good mix of play, even a cool Shaman and Paladin runs from some of these players. I'm really looking forward to what they had to say. Thank you so much for joining me on the desk, Monk.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome, and we'll see you next time. I'm joined by Nyhx. Nyhx, talk to me a little bit about how it is, because you were touted as one of the best players on your team, but you're not able to come through against one of the best members of their team, StrifeCrow. It must be pretty devastating at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like.
Talk to me about some of the games, and you had some opportunities that you feel like you squandered. Tell me about some of the thought process.
So game 1, Druid versus Druid. I felt like when he played turn 8 Ragnaros, I kind of expected it, and I went like for the Gadgazan Auctioneer play, and I really wanted to keep that card alive, and he got it with the Ragnaros, and that was the turning point in game 1. Game 2 was a little bit different. Was really close, game 2, but I kind of got the edge in the late game. He was out of cards, and I got the other key running, so that was pretty good. Game 3, he switched to Frozen Giants, what I expected, and I didn't do anything except for the Rock Virus, and then I got the Alakir. But at this point he had Alexstrasza, and I wanted to kill her, which was a huge mistake. I should have just attacked him twice and popped his Iceberg with my Loot Horror, and next turn I could have Lightning Bolted him.
Yeah.
So I think that lost me the game. And the final game, it was really, really close.
Yeah, it was really close. It came down to a few cards. I think StrifeCrow played his cards in combination really well too.
Yeah, he did a good job. Yeah. I was afraid of Flame Strike in turn 7, so I tried to play around it on turn 6, but I should have just gone for the face all the time.
It definitely seems to be a good policy sometimes. When in doubt, just go for the face. Well, good luck next time, Nyhx, and hopefully we'll see you back soon enough.
Sure.
I'm joined by the winner of it all, StrifeCrow. How you feeling, man? You must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I think I pulled out some wins that are fairly difficult as far as how the cards ran out. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, there were some really interesting decisions you had to really wrestle with, and some of them, Monk was even saying, I'm surprised StrifeCrow went for this, but it ended up paying off for you.
Yeah, generally I'm playing like fairly greedy. Like as far as like trying to maximize the value of each card, sometimes when I feel like I can make like a high tempo move, I just go, I make moves that are a little bit less greedy sometimes than them. Like for example, a lot of times they will not play like something like Defender of Argus or Sun Fury Protector if there's not a lot of buff targets,
right, you don't feel like you get value out of it.
But I feel like wasting your mana the whole turn is, pretty big too. Like, even if you play a 4 mana for a 3/3, if you're not playing a user mana at all that turn, or just play a 1 mana thing, you're effectively paying 1 mana for a 3/3. So I would still make those moves.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Can you walk me through some more moments that you feel like were really critical throughout the series?
There was, I think by far the biggest mistake I made was there was this one Mage vs Shaman game. It was turn 9. It was his turn 9 next turn, so it might have been my turn 9 or turn 8. I was thinking of, because I saw them play Alakir in the Rockbiter weapons, so I was scared that, I thought he had a coin. In reality, I was the one that had the coin. And I thought that if he had 2 Rockbiter weapons, he could kill me. So I decided that turn to Ice Block, Arcane Intellect, and do something else. Instead, I could have Mountain Gianted there. It would have developed my board with the 8/8. And if I Mountain Gianted there, I don't think I would have gotten to the position where I could have lost. Because I believe if he played in another way, I probably would have lost unless I drew an Ice Block after. So.
Wow, even critical for his wins. I guess that's why he's much better than me. Well, congratulations, StrifeCrow. You won $250 for yourself, as well as a buckload of cash for the rest of your team. Actually, now that you guys have won, let's bring the rest of the team up here and kind of get some of your thoughts, because tomorrow we're also going to be doing a special show match to have kind of a little fun where you can wager your own money and earn some more cash. You guys have decided who's your ace yet?
We have not decided yet. It is secret.
I think it's Trump, actually.
Yep. The guy who lost redeemed stuff.
To win. Yeah, everyone needs to win.
All right, well, will it be Trump? Will it be StrifeCrow? Will it be someone else? We'll find out tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me, and congratulations once again, guys.
Thank you.